I am Brad Keelor. She is Morgan Berger. Coming up next on Director's Cut, find out underrated spots, one on the Pitt Campus and two in Washington, D.C. Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Director's Cut. My name is Brad Keelor. I'm the director of the Geo-Institute, and that is why we call this show Director's Cut. Every single week, I sit down with a different GI member who has stories to tell. Some of them are personal, some are professional, but all of them, it is not a coincidence, are fun. If you don't know anything about the Geo-Institute, after you watch this here interview today, you should head over to geo-institute.org, and there you will find out that we are a technical society with about 12,000 members, most of whom are geotechnical engineers and or geologists, and that we are part of the American Society of Civil Engineers. If you like what you see today, viewers, it's Director's Cut. It's every week. You love it. Click like, subscribe, get notifications, and we will let you know every time we post something to the YouTube channel. With those important details out of the way, coming to us from only a few miles from the palatial Keelor estate in suburban Washington, D.C., it is Morgan Berger. She is a geotech specialist at American Geotechnical and Environmental Services, Inc. in McLean, Virginia. Not McLean. When you look at that map, people, it's McLean. It's Morgan Berger. Welcome. Thank you for doing this.
Hi, thank you for having me.
We are going to have a good time today. We have 10 questions, the same way we do every single week. Two of them are the same that we ask everybody else. We start with one of those, as is Director's Cut tradition. Describe your job in 45 seconds.
Okay, so for my job title is Geotechnical Specialist. I work on foundation design, so that includes deep and shallow foundations, spread footings, piles, piers. It's for structures like culverts, bridges, retaining walls. And when I'm not in the office, I'm in the field doing occasional drilling inspection work or micropile inspection work. It's a lot of fun.
Now, one thing, I don't ask a lot of people this, but I have asked before, okay? Anytime I make a comment about a culvert or something when we are out in the wild, say with my family, they always act like it's a super boring thing for me to be excited about. What kind of reactions do you get when you tell non-engineers about what you do, and how do you react if they kind of give you a huh? Or something like that?
Pretty similar to you. I probably have gotten the same reactions from non-engineers of, why are you staring at this culvert right now? What is a culvert? But I react by explaining that it's a really cool structure and they're basically everywhere. They're just sometimes hard to notice when you're driving over top of it.
Exactly.
So, yeah, they're underrated. Culverts are awesome.
Low-head dams are one of my other ones, and everybody's just kind of like, okay, that's great.
Cool.
I feel low-head dams, I feel they're very elegant structures, but, again, underrated. We're going to talk about some underrated things in this interview. So low-head dams, underrated structures. That's
exactly.
We have to ask fun questions on Director's Cut. I mean, realistically, that's why the people are watching this, right? So we start with this, Morgan. What's your routine at the end of every workday like? And this, whether you're in the office or the field or wherever, what are the last things you do before you're done for the day?
This is a good question. So making me think about my end of day routine. So most of my time I'm working in the office, and my office is a lot of fun. So there's only 5 of us located in the McLean, Virginia. So a big part of my end of the day routine would be saying goodbye to my coworkers. Like, I'll pack my things up. I'll go wash. I have 1 coffee cup and I drink copious amounts of coffee every day. So I go wash that coffee cup, put it back on my desk, pack up, go say bye to my coworkers in our other office, and then leave about 30 minutes later than when I packed up, because I always talk to them for super long at the end of the day. But
So you
yeah, no
haven't
complaints.
turned this into an Instagram story or anything yet. Those are some of my least favorite ones. I'm like, why do I care about what this person does between 5 and 9 after they leave work? I
Oh
want to
yeah,
see the office pack up part. I like
yes,
that.
the office pack up. So yeah, end up talking a lot longer than expected. But and sometimes also we will all decide to go play tennis or sports after work. We've recently gotten into tennis as an office. So we'll go to a court in McLean and go play after we all pack up and finish our talking for the day.
What about when you're out in the field? How do you end the day there? Because that's got to be a very different experience.
Step one, take your boots off before you get in your
Yeah.
car. It's always a bad day when you forget to do that. And then also, like, if I'm doing drilling inspection, I will write out my logs at the end of the day because I'm usually bad at that in the field. I'm more focused on packing the jars, labeling everything correctly. So I'll go back over my logs, clean everything up, send some pictures to the project manager of the soil conditions that we encountered that day. So
That's pretty
yeah,
good. A little bit of a different routine, but
a lot
yeah,
different.
it has to, I don't know, you got to have like a kind of a denouement, right? So you can
Hmm.
move on and get. I like the tennis though, and I like that you guys do that as an office.
Yeah, it's a
That's
lot of fun.
amazing and hilarious, but really cool. So the third question is always the research and practice question, and we're going to make this one sound incredibly dramatic for all the people out there just to sell it. You were involved in levee design, and you controlled the fate of a town in Pennsylvania in your hands. Morgan, can you tell us about that project? What happened?
So this is a really cool project to me because as a company, we don't do a lot of dams, seepage analysis. We do structures. I mean, these are structures, but we don't deal with water a lot. And we analyzed a levee that was surrounding a town in Pennsylvania. And all we did was analyze it. We didn't design anything, but the analysis was to tell what would happen if like a 500-year flood or 200-year flood occurred in this town. Like, what would happen to the levee? It was really interesting. The end result was that the levee was not built up enough to handle amounts of water that big. So the outcome wasn't good, but I learned a lot about seepage analysis and flow nets. Yeah, it was a unique job for my company too, which is why I think it was really cool.
Did you guys have to get involved at all on like the public outreach side? Because I think this is one of those things where, you live in a small town like that, and if your background isn't in engineering, like sometimes all you know is, there's that berm over there or that
Yeah,
embankment or whatever that's preventing the water from coming in from whatever water source. It was good enough to stop the flood of 47 or whatever. It's probably good enough to stop the next thing that's going to happen. So
right,
communicating that, I think, is incredibly difficult. Like
right.
from your side, um, how did you guys account for all of these environmental changes, other than like, the water's in a different place maybe than it was last time? Like, what was the process like for that for you?
Big part of it had to do with the actual amounts of water that we were analyzing the levee for. I think I don't know a good range of years, but I'd say 20 years ago, it wouldn't have been the levels under analysis
Mhm.
that it was today, because obviously like floods are happening a lot more, like extreme weather conditions are happening. So I think just the sheer amount of water and damage that we were analyzing the levee for has changed over the years. But did that answer your question?
I think so. And the,
Okay.
the the end result here is, I mean, the town's still there,
Right.
so
Yeah. And
everything's
everything's
cool. We
fine
made
day to
we made
day.
it so dramatic at the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah, they may repair it in the future. Like not repair it, but build it up more in the future. So
Next one, I think this is the first question I wrote for the interview. And the story here was somebody had asked me about my first iPod, I think. And I thought about it, and it was like 2004, I think, Christmas, when the iPod Nanos came out, and they were smaller than the iPods had been before. And I was riding the metro to work and home every day, and people were looking at it like it was super cool because I guess I was one of the first people that got one. I didn't even remember that. What purchase in your life, Morgan, has made you feel the coolest?
This is a tough question. Also, yeah, I also had an iPod Nano, as we discussed, and it was a great, like, I was so cool. I had a bright emerald green iPod Nano, and I used to ride on the school bus listening to it every day. So, but the coolest purchase that I've ever made was definitely a snowboard when I was in middle school. But I guess when I say snowboard, like, you think a really expensive, nice, fancy snowboard, but this was this was maybe a $40 or $50 snowboard that your feet didn't even click into it. You just stand on it and you
Whoa.
hold the rope and you go down the hill. But where I grew up and like where I was raised until I left for college was really close to a ski resort. So all of my friends were really big into the snow sports. For me to purchase a snowboard for myself and to learn how to use it was, I felt like the coolest kid ever.
Well, I think so. That was an important detail there. So you bought it with your own money, it sounds
Yeah,
like.
yeah, I
Because
remember.
that, I mean, when you're that age, like
Right?
one, it makes anything seem much cooler.
Yeah.
But like how much more careful do you think you were with that than if somebody had given it to you?
So much more careful.
How
Especially,
how how long did you keep it?
I think I still have it. I definitely still have it, but I don't know where it is. Probably in the house that I grew up in. That thing has been through everything at this point, and I don't even snowboard. I'm a skier now. So if that tells you how many times I crashed on this snowboard, I went to skiing, but yeah, I still have it somewhere.
And I gotta think that's because you bought it yourself. Like I just feel like
Such
that
a prized
makes a big
possession.
difference. Well, right. And a lot
Yeah.
of things like I can remember when you're that age, you get Christmas presents from relatives, and sometimes you kind of look at it and you're like, what am I going to do with this? And
Right.
instantly for me, it was like if I didn't like something, I'm scanning the stores trying to figure out how much they paid for it so that if I go return it, what can I get instead? Which
Right.
this is an awful admission on Director's Cut. It's like Director's Cut confessional this week. But if you buy it yourself, I don't know, you're just so much more invested in it.
Yeah.
That's a cool purchase. I like that. That was so we have another nostalgic question to back with that one with. And I've asked a few people this question, but it's been a while. So Morgan, you're lucky that you get this one too.
Mhm.
Was there a specific moment when you realized you wanted to be a civil engineer?
I think there was more of a moment that solidified my decision. Um, so originally I started out in college as an environmental engineer because I was really, like, I still am really passionate about the environment. And I slowly, as an environmental engineer at the University of Pittsburgh, you take a lot of civil classes, especially your first few years. And my second year of college is when I'm like, I need to switch over to civil because all of my classes are in civil
Hmm.
anyway. And I kind of was ready to dabble in getting a co-op in the civil field to see if I like that kind of work. Um, but yeah, so I ended up going with civil. I liked it. One of the moments I remember was also in college when I was like, this is the coolest major, like I picked the best thing to learn about was I was part of the concrete canoe team at Pitt, and it's all fun and games of creating the mixed design, molding the canoe together, demolding it. We had our competition, our OVSC is what they called it. It has a new name now, but I forget what it's called now. But our concrete canoe competition was in Akron, Ohio. And it's all fun and games until they look at you and they're like, do you want to row it? Like, do you want to get in? Do you want to row this concrete? And you're like, oh boy, Like, I hope we did this right. I hope it floats. So I remember rowing that thing, and our theme was Santa's sleigh. We
Oh,
called the
very
kid.
nice.
Yeah, I don't remember if it was a play on like the word, like how people say sleigh all the time, and then
Oh,
Santa has a sleigh, but we called the concrete canoe our Santa sleigh. So we all had Santa hats on, and it was really cold, I remember. And I'm like, okay, like, let me row it. Let's race. So I get in the canoe with another one of my teammates, and we're rowing, like, going out to the deep part of the lake. And that was a moment where I'm like, wow, this is really neat that we created this canoe with our civil engineering knowledge, and now it's floating, and I'm rowing it out in the middle of a lake.
so I've got two follow-up questions for
Okay.
this. And then, can you remember any particularly good reactions that you got from your non-civil major friends when you told them that you were doing this? Like, because I do think it probably sounds absolutely insane to a lot of people that
Yeah.
you're building this thing. Like,
Hmm.
do you remember what anybody said to you about it or anything?
I think the first reaction is always why. Just like, why, and then how. How does it like, I don't believe you is always, it's a
But
skeptical
that's
reaction.
that's ju- that's so good though, because it's
Yeah.
like that's just like that softball coming in, right? It's
Yeah.
like, let me give you an engineering lesson.
Yeah.
And then the other follow-up, what did you guys do with your old canoes after you brought them back? Was there anything? I think I've seen one or two of the ones at Pitt, but
Yeah.
I don't remember where they are or anything. Did you guys do anything
Right.
cool with them after they came back?
No, so I think this is a good question. I think we wanted to. You bring it back, and then we put it back on the table where we build it to store. And our goal with it was, because it was a successful canoe, and that doesn't always happen, and we brought it back
Oh
in one
yeah.
piece. um, our advisor said we should set that up in the engineering building. We should put that in Benedum is the engineering building at Pitt. We should put that in Benedum on the civil engineering floor. Um, it never happened. I don't know what happened to the canoe, because after that competition the following year is when COVID started,
Yeah.
and we could never get back into the shed where we kept the canoe. It took us like years, and by the time we got there, I don't know where the canoe ever went. I think our captains of the time did something with it. I don't know if they like threw it out, or if we reused some of the materials. I don't know, but it would have been really neat if it had gotten displayed in the engineering building at Pitt.
This sounds like a job for one Sebastian Lobo Guerrero. I feel like he could make this happen. Or little tidbit here, Chancellor Gallagher is an old
Yeah.
friend of mine from his NIST days, and
Oh,
so
really?
maybe we can make this happen.
We
That
can
would
still
be
happen.
I
It's
like
not too
that though.
late. Yeah.
So this is going to transition right into the other question that we ask everybody when they come on the show. More nostalgia here and more probably concrete canoe memories here. How did you first get involved in ASCE and GI?
So I've been involved with ASCE since college, like I said. Um, I don't remember. It was definitely just word of mouth. I heard one of my friends from my civil classes going to this ASCE meeting, and I think I slowly got involved. It wasn't anything like, I don't remember exactly the first day I went to an ASCE meeting, but Geo-Institute it's new for me in terms of like Geo-Institute in the professional world.
Mhm.
So I started at Aegis almost a year and a half ago now, and I moved down here to Northern Virginia to work, and my coworkers were all involved with the Geo-Institute for the National Capital section. And watching them go, and they held different board positions, and they would go to the meetings every month. Um, they definitely one day just asked if I wanted to join, and I said yeah. So I really like the Geo-Institute. I do so I got involved a year and a half ago, so January 23. And by August of 23, I was the young member coordinator. So now I have a board position too. And yeah, my coworkers got me involved, and I'm super grateful. I love the Geo Institute here.
Was it hard to get involved for all the people out there watching?
No, It was not.
Boom. Exactly.
Just pay attention to the emails, I guess.
And so
And
for all, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
sorry, I was going to say shameless plug. If you're young, a new professional, and you want to like come meet other young people, we hold young member events like every few months. So, and I run them, and it's very relaxed and usually like a fun event. So, would love to have more people join.
For all the viewers, if you want to get involved in your local chapter, and why would you not, just head over to geo-institute.org, click on, I think it's directly, you can click right on chapters or communities and then chapters or something like that. And we have a list and a map, a handy map of all the GI chapters around this United States of America. There are over 60. Chances are there is one near you, and the DC one is good. One of the things I love about the DC chapter is one of the only ones that does lunchtime meetings. Every place else there is 7 p.m. I find that difficult. The part of the DC culture, I guess, is that you do things at lunchtime. It's just more of a thing, I guess. So if anybody's in the area and watching this, you should definitely get out and head to those, and head to the younger member events too. What was the last one you guys did? You did the first day of the basketball tournament, right? You did like
We had a March Madness, just a happy hour.
Just a happy hour, but it was so much more. Think of the networking. Think of the people who got to watch their schools lose in painful fashion in the first day of the tournament.
Watch the brackets crumble.
Exactly. Perfect. Oh, that was really good. Lots of learning on Director's Cut. Every week, there's nostalgia. We bring up moments from people's pasts that maybe are painful for them. It's almost like psychology, too. Here, Morgan, what's your most embarrassing moment, and what did you learn from it?
This is a good question, and it's hard for me to answer because I probably have a new most embarrassing moment every week. Like, I'm always embarrassing myself, I'm pretty sure. I don't have a specific instance for this because, like I said, so much has been learned from doing things the wrong way the first time. But so one story I can think of, and I feel like I've been talking about college a lot, but this was also a college story. When I went to the University of Pittsburgh, I transferred in from a branch campus after my first year. I went to Pitt Greensburg freshman year, and then I transferred into the main campus after. And apparently, and I didn't know this at the time, but as a sophomore, you're required to take a major specific seminar. So for me, it was civil engineering seminar. And I was really stressed out moving from a small branch of Pitt to the main Pitt. And I think I just didn't read my schedule properly that day, or didn't know exactly what the class was. But I go to this engineering seminar, civil engineering seminar. We all sit down, and I'm like, okay, like I'm at the big school. I'm going to make friends. I look over to the guy next to me and I'm like, hi, like, what's your major? He just stared at me like blank stare because we were in civil engineering seminar. And he said, civil engineering. And I said, oh, me too. The worst part was I didn't realize until about 5 minutes into class starting that we were all civil engineers in seminar. That wasn't my most embarrassing moment, but that was a funny moment I could think of. My advice from that would be never be afraid to ask questions, even if, like, it turned out to be funny. And then the guy next to me, we ended up being friends because we had a lot of classes together after that. So it was good to look back at that and laugh. But never be scared to ask questions and mess up those questions.
Oh, I like that. And at least it was only 5 minutes before you realized that. I mean, sometimes you have those where it's like a year.
Oh, yeah.
And you look back and you're like, whoa,
wow.
That was not great. And it was bad. But that's a pretty solid one.
Yeah.
So, and don't worry about the talking about college a lot, because let me tell you, I'm 44 years old, and every single time there's a St. Joe's basketball game on TV, or, it seems like when we're sitting at dinner with our kids, my wife and I went to college together, and we're telling stupid stories about college, and we haven't been on that. Well, as students, we haven't been on that campus in like 23 years, so don't worry too much about that. We also handle I don't know what this category is for this next one. Mystical, fantastical on director's cut. If you could have one superpower, what would you choose?
Super strength.
That's it?
Absolutely.
Why? What would you do with it?
So as of the past year or so, I've gotten into rock wall climbing, indoor. I super strength would solve all my problems. It wouldn't even be a hobby anymore. I'd
That's
be
true.
so good at rock wall climbing.
But would you, okay, but see, here's the thing, right? And this is where it gets complicated. Would it still be fun? Because if you knew you could just get up there and go and
Yeah.
hit any wall you wanted.
I think it'd still be fun. I think it would be more fun because I fail miserably still. But I like the atmosphere and the people that I go climbing with. So to be able to do it really well, I think I'd still have fun.
Okay, to nerd out here real quick, and
Yeah.
anybody who lives outside the Beltway is not going to care at all. Where have you been going? Give us your best walls in the DC area.
Movement. The movement
Oh,
gyms
in
have-
Crystal City?
Yeah, in Crystal City. There's one in Rockville too.
And what about outdoor? Have you done any outdoor climbing yet?
I haven't. I lived in Seattle for a summer a couple of years ago, and I did a little bit of outdoor rock climbing, but nothing crazy. I would like to move outdoor though.
So here's your starter, and this is a good one for everybody, especially when you visit the DC area, because everybody goes to the same stuff when they come to DC. Leave the Lincoln. Well, no, you should go see the Lincoln Memorial too.
Mhm.
Get on the Billy Goat Trail on the Maryland side of Great Falls,
Mhm.
and there are a couple of climbs there that you can do without equipment. There's one place called the Wall where it's about a 40-foot. It's a diagonal climb because you don't need equipment, but it's tough. And then there are a couple of spots at the beginning of Billy Goat B, I think, that are some relatively basic climbs, but you still need equipment there. But that's the place to start.
Are you a climber?
No, not really.
Oh.
But I know enough to do that.
Okay. Yeah, that's awesome.
And the Wall's fun because, like I said, you don't need any equipment. Just hang on to your stuff, because if that's one way. You're not going back down that wall.
Once you get to the top, yeah, can't get back down.
We
That's
almost lost a
funny.
water bottle there a few years ago. So now more nostalgia, more college, but that's okay. We love it. One of my favorite campuses in the United States is the Pitt Campus. And people kind of look at me weird when I say that because it's an urban campus, but I've spent a lot of time there. And so I really enjoy it. So Morgan, I had to ask you, as somebody who was there for a while, got 2 degrees from the University of Pittsburgh, what are 3 spots on the Pitt campus that everyone should see?
So 3 spots. Number 1 would be the Benedum sub-basement. So that's it's very niche.
I didn't see this coming.
Yeah. I am not saying Kathy. So because everybody knows Kathy is awesome. So the engineering building is Benedum, and the sub-basement is 2 floors below the ground floor, maybe 3. I don't know. I haven't been there in like 2 years. But the sub-basement is where the soils lab is, the fluids lab. It's where they build the FSAE, the Pitt Panther racing car.
Yep.
They build it down there in the sub-basement. There's no windows. It smells weird. There's a lot of concrete curing in that basement. That's a must-see.
So I was down there with Sebastian in January, and we went into one of the offices, and yes, that requires air quotes, at the back of one of the labs. And he hadn't been in there in a long time, and he found notes on the wall that he had written when he was a grad student, 25 years ago, and they were still there. Nobody had taken them down or anything. So we really enjoyed that. So what else you got? What are your other spots?
So another one would be the Frick Fine Arts building. That was my favorite building on campus. There's a courtyard in the middle. It's very European. It's beautiful in there. And number 3 would be, I don't know if this counts as on the campus, but Jean's Place Bar. Have you heard? Have you ever heard of Jean's Place?
So you got to tell everybody about this. I've never been.
It's the best dive bar at Pitt, I would say. I spent a lot of my senior year there, and also I don't know about grad school. I didn't go there as much, but they do like dollar hot dogs. They have like $1 beers on Sundays. Gene's place it's a great place. I'm pretty sure the owner of the bar, Gene, is a professor at one of the Pittsburgh colleges.
Oh,
It's not Pitt, but I feel it might be CMU or something. It's
I
it's
like
awesome.
that. Oh,
Yeah,
those are
great
solid
to explore.
choices. Everybody who knows me knows I always go with the baseball themed because you got the wall from Forbes Field still there that
Oh yeah,
Mazeroski hit the home run over. That's outside. Well, it's across the street from Posner, maybe, because
yeah,
home plate is
yeah.
in Posner in the
Right.
floor. And I love the sports museum. Go take a picture of Mike Ditka that's a good one. And for my off-campus spots, I mean, I'm going to go with Primanti Brothers because if you're not from Pittsburgh, I think that's an experience
Yeah.
everybody has to have one time. Go
Right.
in and get a sandwich on white bread that has way, way, way too much stuff on it. And I'll counter your dollar beers. Primanti Brothers is not that expensive. Like
Right.
you can feed four people there and have a couple of beers for like $50. It's a
Yeah.
really, really good deal. Oh, so that's fantastic. And we're going to segue into the final question like this. Now you are in the DC area, the DMV as we call it
Yeah.
sometimes. What are your three most underrated spots in DC that everyone should see now that you're a local?
Yeah, local. I've only been here for about 2 years, but I would say number one is the Netherlands Carillon
Oh, good call.
monument. It's definitely underrated, especially in the spring. I live really like I can walk to it basically, and when I go on runs in the morning, I always run past. And in the spring, they plant hundreds of tulips. It's so gorgeous there. I love that monument.
It's more than hundreds, Morgan. There's got to
Thousands.
be like
Yeah.
10,000 out there, but it is really cool. Great views because you can see
Hmm.
everything.
You can
Washington
see all.
Monument, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's beautiful. Number two would be Teddy Roosevelt Island.
Oh,
Also because I like to run around Teddy Roosevelt Island. I live nearby, but it feels like you're in the middle of the woods, but you're in Washington, D.C. It's crazy. It's definitely a must see. And the monument on the island is neat too.
and what's your third one?
Number three would be DuPont Underground. I recently have discovered this one with a group of friends. We went, an abandoned underground streetcar in the DuPont Circle area of DC, and they basically have rebuilt it underground to have art displays and like graffiti. I think they have like a bar or two down there. It's super neat. And it's also hard to find because you have to like walk on the staircase underground, and it has a big sign and it says this is not the DC Metro. It's really funny. It's like it's a little bit sketchy going in, and the fact that they have that sign there, like people definitely get confused and think it's the Metro. But
I think that's got to be part of the appeal too, right? I mean, for
right,
me, as a person who's lived here for a long time now too, like there were times when there were a lot of sketchy areas, and it's almost cool that some of that has returned, even if it's ironically or like
right.
intentionally, because everything's fancy now. I
Yeah.
love the choices of the Netherlands Carillon and Roosevelt Island. Those are two fantastic ones. I would put another one, and those are both actually in Virginia. We should point out, right? Or is
Yeah.
Roosevelt Island technically DC?
Oh, I don't know.
You
I
can only get there from Virginia. You
from
have to go
Virginia,
across
right?
the footbridge. My third one, which is also in Virginia, is the Air Force Memorial. You look at it and it's this abstract metal things going into the
Yeah.
sky. They're supposed to be contrails from fighter jets, but the views from standing right inside that little memorial area are fantastic. You can see Arlington Cemetery on one side. You can see the Jefferson Memorial over here on the other side, Crystal City to your right. It's fantastic. So those were solid choices, Morgan.
Oh,
I
thanks.
love that.
Yeah.
So you made it through all 10 questions and you did a fantastic job. Even the follow-ups. You have a superpower, your iPod, like we were ever you saved a town. We went everywhere. And viewers, if you liked it, you probably did because you're here at the end. You should click like, subscribe, and get notifications, and we will always let you know when we post something to the YouTube channel. Morgan, thank you again for doing this.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun.
And for all the viewers, get out to one of those DC chapter younger member events, and we will see you in 7 days with another episode of Director's Cut.
So the funny story is when I first moved to DC, like my boyfriend and I moved down here together, live in DC, we're like, oh, we're so close to Maryland and we can go to the beach whenever we want. Like we could just do a weekend trip, right? So like we were en route to, I want to say like Ocean City, Maryland, like a weekend trip because we both grew up in Pittsburgh. So it had to be a big trip if you wanted to go to the beach. So we were going to like Ocean City, Maryland, and we realized that we forgot beach towels. And we're like on the way to the beach, like, of course you forget beach towels. So we stop at this Target in the middle of nowhere, Maryland. We weren't that far out of DC yet, maybe like not even an hour. But the reason why I say the beach towel is because we found a stray cat that day in the Target parking lot. It's like this tiny little orange cat. She was only like a couple pounds at the time. And we ended up taking her home. Never made it to the beach. And now she's our pet orange cat that we bought it. We say we bought her at Target, but we didn't pay anything for her.
So you never even got there?
We never went to the beach, no. We like in the moment, my boyfriend was pretty mad and he was like, we can't take a cat, like we're going to the beach. And I'm like, we have to go home, like we have to take her home. And we had just like moved in together too in DC, and I think he realized I was a crazy cat lady at that time. And yeah, so we took her home and she's been our pet for like 3 years now.
Wow. I mean, that is a good story.
But yeah, but I don't have to tell that.
You've been back to the beach since.
We went to the beach like a week or two after that, I think. We found someone to watch her.
So